This conference will now be recorded.
Dear students, so today we are going to discuss a very important topic in global business. This topic is related to one of the concepts of national income accounting, that is balance of payments. Balance of payments is a statement which is prepared by every country, and it acts as a language between the countries to understand that what is happening with the economics of the country with respect to rest of the world. It is very important for a global business to understand the performance of balance of payment of a particular country, because it then has implications on currency valuations and devaluations. So today we'll be taking time to discuss this particular topic, that is balance of payments. The first important concept is to highlight the introductory part in balance of payment, which pertains to that what a balance of payment is. So according to International Monetary Fund and according to other researchers as well, balance of payment is a statement which summarizes all the economic transactions between a particular country and rest of the world. In other terms, few researchers and organizations, particularly like IMF, want to stick to the term of residents and non-residents for a specific duration for a specific country. The concept behind this balance of payment is to understand that what is happening in a four sector economy. If we recall our discussions on the economic systems, there are three types of economic systems which comes under the concept of circular flow of income. One is a two sector economy model, second is a three sector economy model, and third is a four sector economy model. In a two sector economy model, we only have firms and household. In a three sector economic model, we have firms, we have households, and we have the government sector. However, in a four sector economy model, we have the firms, the households, the government sector, and the rest of the world. And this third model, which is four sector economy model, is relevant in our time because now most of the economies are integrated with the rest of the world. And because of that, this model of circular flow of income, whether real model or the nominal model, both with respect to fourth sector economy, are applicable now in the global economy, and that is what is relevant now for the global business. Balance of payment thus plays a very integral role because it tries to tell that how a particular country is transacting with rest of the world and how it is captured into this kind of statement. The format of the balance of payment is based on the rule of nominal account, that is, debit to pay all expenses and losses, credit to all gains and incomes. Therefore, whatever transactions results in expenses, losses, or income flowing out, rather I should not use the term income because it is based on expenses and revenues, but still that will be debited and will come under the head of debit. Credit to all gains and incomes, that will be credited because that will be coming in into the credit side of the balance of payment. You can see on the screen that we have this balance of payment format, which is very important to understand because it tells each and everything about a particular country in a summarized manner. Because this is a summarized statement, therefore there are lots of issues which we will not be discussing because they are very specific issues. We are going to develop a generalized view of this particular balance of payment statement. Why we are going to develop a generalized statement is that because there are issues which may not be very easy to understand, and therefore we will be the managers and the people who are into the global business, they just require a very simple understanding of this balance of payment. That's why we are not going to go into the detail of the econometric issues of balance of payment statement. So you see that the balance of payment is divided into two types of accounts primarily. One is the current account and the second one is the capital account. The current account is also known as the active account of the balance of payment because it determines a lot about the trading activities of a particular country with respect to rest of the world. However, in case of the capital account, it is more inactive in the sense that it has a long-term approach rather than a short-term and annual approach. Though the statement is prepared every year, but still this kind of comparison is because in capital account, capital is coming in and going out of the country. And capital takes time as well as there are restrictions on capital movement by the central banks of respective countries. That's why we say that capital account is a much more is related much more to the long-term aspects of economic transactions, and current account is an active account because it deals on a daily basis and it is very important every year for the country to decide about. If you see the format of the balance of payment, you can easily see that it starts with exports, imports, trade balance, net invisibles, and this is how we calculate the current account balance, that is current account. So current account has primarily three components: exports, imports, and net invisibles. This export and imports are with respect to merchandise goods, and this net invisibles are related to services. So you know one particular country exports both goods and services, but in balance of payment under capital current account we take it differently because these two had different dimensions. So exports and import means the physical goods, that is merchandise goods, and invisibles includes exports and imports of services. And exports and imports, the balance of exports and import, that is exports minus imports, is known as trade balance. A country can witness a positive trade balance which is beneficial for the country. A country can witness a negative trade balance, which is not very good for a country. The answers may differ when the trade balance is persistently positive for a very long period of time or negative for a very long period of time. Take the example of recent trade war between China and the United States of America, and the President of the United States of America arguing that for a very long period of time we have been witnessing a negative trade balance, and the steps taken by the President of the United States of America the as he argued was to minimize this negative trade balance between United States of America and China. So therefore, this is the relevance of trade balance. A persistent negative trade balance is also a problematic issue for the country, and a persistent surplus trade balance is also a problematic issue for the country with respect to currency valuation. And then we have net invisibles, which means the exports in services minus imports in services. This net invisibles can also be positive or negative. Now, for example, exports. Now, what is happening because of exports? We are receiving money. So I will just reiterate the principle. The principle is debit to pay all expenses, losses, credit to all gains and incomes. Now, because we have gains and incomes in exports, because the income is flowing into our country, that's why this export item will be credited. Import on the other hand, because when we are importing raw materials, equipments, machines, etc., we have to pay to the foreign companies. Therefore, the money is flowing out of our country, which means it is an expense, so it will be debited. Depending on trade balance, if the imports are more, the trade balance will appear in negative, that is debit. If the exports are more, trade balance will appear on the credit side. Then we have net invisibles again. If the exports and services is more than imports and services, then it will be coming on the credit side. However, if it is opposite, then it will be coming in the debit side. And then the difference between trade balance and net invisible is the current account balance, the final current account balance, which is the first component of balance of payment. This current account balance also determines lots of macroeconomic policy of a country. If current account balance is positive, it is considered a good signal and functioning of the economy, particularly with respect to international trade, and it is also good for currency valuation. If the current account balance is negative, means it is a current account deficit. A negative current account balance is a current account deficit, and a positive current account balance is a current account surplus. So if it is negative, which means we have a current account deficit, there are lots of studies which suggest that below 4% it is sustainable, means it is acceptable for a country, and it may have some implications on currency devaluation, which may give benefit to the country in international trade because your exports may become cheaper. However, beyond 4%, and if it is persistently for several years, it is beyond 4%, then it is an alarming situation for the country, because it means that the country is losing its competitiveness in the international market because it is not able to export goods and services into the international market. So therefore, current account balance is very determining factor, and that's why you will see that in lots of journalistic articles, news, economic articles and essays, you will find current account balance and current account deficit and surplus is very popular. However, no other component of balance of payment is so much popular except debt, which is a part of current account, which is a part of balance of payment, but it's not that much popular. Then we start with the capital account. Now there's some issues with respect to capital account. A capital account tries to inculcate all the financial transactions which are related to capital flows into and into the country and originating from the country with respect to rest of the world. This capital account, therefore, whatever loans a country is taking, whatever grants a country is getting, whatever foreign investment in the form of capital a country is receiving will come under the capital account balance. Also, if a country is investing as capital in some other foreign countries in rest of the world, then also it will be a part of capital account balance. So we have, you can see the sixth item. From here we start with the capital account. The net external assistance. External assistance is, for example, IMF is giving us giving a particular country. For example, suppose IMF is giving a 2.2 billion loan to India. Then it means that this will be under external assistance, and because we are receiving it, it will be mentioned on the credit side. And we have the when we are giving assistance, for example, India is giving financial assistance as external assistance to Bhutan, then it will be mentioned under debit side of balance of payments, and the balance of the both will decide whether it will come on credit or debit. If we have received more than what we have given, then it will appear in credit side. If we have given more than what we have received, it will be coming under the debit side. Now there is one thing which needs to be understood, that capital account always appears to be very positive, which means that, now take the example of net external assistance. If suppose we are receiving more, if we suppose we are receiving 2 billion US dollar as an external assistance from IMF, and on the other hand we are giving to Bhutan 1 billion US dollars. Now it means that we have received 2 billion and we have given 1 billion to somebody else, to any other country. But the cost of this 2 billion we have to bear, and that will be the service cost which will go every year, which will come under current account. That thing you need to understand, that current account services the capital account. These two are not independent. So whenever you are taking loans, you are taking assistance from rest of the world, you have to pay a service charge in the name of interest or SDR charges, whatever. That will be service from your current account balance. Therefore, a burden on your capital account will always put a burden on your current account. That you need to understand. That is the relationship between current account and capital account. If you have a very positive current account, then you can always go for more exposure in the capital account. If your current account balance is negative, which means you have persistently current account deficit, then you need to be skeptical in order to take more and more borrowings from the rest of the world under capital. Then you have net commercial borrowings, all the borrowings which the commercial sector of your country is taking from rest of the world. It means that Indian companies borrowing from international market. That is net commercial borrowings, and the Indian companies giving in the international market borrowings. Both will be mentioned here. That then net NR deposit, non-resident deposit in the form of remittances, which the country is receiving, that is net factor income from abroad, which is also known as net factor income from abroad under the national income accounting. So we are also receiving remittances, and the people who are into our country who belong to other countries, they are also receiving some remittances which they are transferring to their home countries. So both things will be mentioned here. With respect to India, our remittances which we receive are far ahead than the remittances which we pay to other foreign nationals as factor incomes. This is the benefit which India is having, and you can recall our last discussion of Indian economic crisis where we discussed that one of the issues of balance of payment crisis of India just before 1991 was that because of Gulf War and oil prices surged, the remittances which used to come to India from Middle East, they started declining. And that was one of the causes of balance of payment crisis in India. So this component it is maybe it may not be very important for developed countries, but it is very, very significant for a developing country, particularly like India, where its population, a good percentage of its population is working in rest of the world and transferring their remittances to their homes. That is India. Then the next component is the net foreign direct investment. And the 10th is portfolio investment. How you create a difference between these two? There are lots of theoretical differences between portfolio investment and foreign direct investment. But with respect to balance of payment, we do not have a very specific subjective difference. But we have a very specific, very clear-cut technical difference. And the technical difference is any amount of income, any amount of money which is flowing into our territory. Obviously, territory means it must be going into some form, some venture. If it is more than if it is at least 10% of the equity, suppose American Insurance Group is putting capital into Tata Insurance Company, into Tata, and this capital investment is 8% of the total equity of the Tata, then this will be considered net. This will come under the category of portfolio investment. But if the same is 10% in the total equity of the Tata, then it will be a foreign direct investment. So the technical difference between foreign direct investment and portfolio investment is how much is being invested into the total equity of the home company. If that is less than 10%, then it is portfolio investment. If it is at least 10% or more than that, it is foreign direct investment. Take the example of Tata AIG. Tata is AIG is a joint venture, and joint ventures come under the category of foreign direct investment. It is a type of foreign direct investment. It means that from here we can know that it means at least American Insurance Group would have invested 10% into the total equity of the Tata. Otherwise, it was not possible. Otherwise, it was not possible to term it as a foreign direct investment. So that we need to understand. Foreign direct investment is of three types. We have greenfield investment, which are fresh investment. So, for example, Amazon, all the operations of Amazon into our country are basically foreign direct investment, because they have opened their own venture here and they are then trying to do business over here. The second one is the joint venture. Joint ventures basically where two companies are coming together for strategic reasons. So, for example, Tata AIG. AIG is the American insurance group, the largest insurance group. It has capital, it has funds, it has expertise. And then Tata. Tata do not have it doesn't had any expertise in insurance. But Tata was open to a huge consumer base because people are consuming the products of Tata. So Tata had huge consumer base related to India. So American Insurance Group and Tata, they came together. This is a type of foreign direct investment. That is a joint venture. So this joint venture is very important. So this is what foreign direct investment. So foreign net FDI means, here we are talking about this net FDI means FDI inflows, the foreign direct investment which is coming into our country, minus FDI outflows, the foreign direct investment which is flowing out of our country. If it is more, if net FDI is positive, it will be coming under the credit side. Again, I repeat the principle for your understanding, that debit to pay all expenses and losses, credit to all gains and incomes. So because we are receiving more, it will be on credit, otherwise it will be on debit. Portfolio investment, same. Any capital investment less than 10% into the equity of any Indian company, any domestic company, any home company is portfolio investment, which will come under credit if it is positive and debit if it is negative. Again, net portfolio investment, how to calculate it? Portfolio investment received by India minus portfolio investment invested by India in the rest of the world. Net other flows includes flows by multilateral organizations. For example, one of the example is official development assistance given by World Bank and International Monetary Fund. Such kind of one-time payments given by multilateral agencies will be coming under net other flows. Then this finally we can calculate the capital account balance, which is 6 to 11. 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 11. That will be our capital account balance. Now, because this is a statement and we are taking this statement for one particular country, that is India, and it is very difficult to reach a very balanced figure, that we cannot have a trial balance in this kind of statement. That's why there will always be some kind of mismatch. That mismatch we then try to adjust through official reserve. We say that okay, whatever differences are there, it's like trial balance not matching. What we do if trial balance doesn't match, because we have 10, 20, 25 entries, we can recheck it and identify it that okay, this was something wrong, and then we can reframe our trial balance, and then we can reach to an answer where debit is equal to credit. However, this is not possible for a country because we cannot trace and track each and every transaction. Suppose it is just not matching by $1 million, or let's take just $0.1 million. What we are going to do? We are going to spend more than that on balancing this equation? No, we are not going to do that. So what we will be doing is, we will be then balancing it through official reserves, assuming that whatever differences are there, they must be happening through our gold reserve or other official reserves of foreign currencies. Okay, so this is about the format of this balance of payment. Then we will move on to the next slide, which is based on, so in this format, we need to understand that this format is the latest format. And this latest format we are using because we need to understand the latest changes. Now come on to the next slide, that is balance of payment disequilibrium. When a country is preparing balance of payment, the objective is not just to know. It is to know and then to form policies so that the conditions of disequilibrium are settled down. We want our economy to move towards an equilibrium position. where everything is going towards stability. However, disequilibrium in economics means instability, where we need to make then policies to make it stable. For example, inflation going beyond 10%. Why we then have policies to minimize the inflation? The reason is because we presume and assume that inflation crossing 5, 6, 7% is not good for the economy and the people. And this is a disequilibrium condition, and we need to take back it towards an equilibrium condition. So because of that, we then form our policies. Now there can be four type of balance of payment disequilibrium. One is the development disequilibrium. When a country starts spending too much on developmental activities, that too by the government, what happens that aggregate demand increases in that particular country. And when aggregate demand increases, because it is related to then to the companies, then obviously we have more purchasing power, and because of that, imports do increase into a particular economy. And more increase in imports means we started we start witnessing current account deficit, which becomes a disequilibrium for balance of payment. I'll give you an example. Suppose a country decides to manufacture a dam, and not just one dam, 100 dams in a particular country, in a particular economy. What will happen? Government starts spending money on dams. They will hire companies to construct that dam. The companies will get more business, people will have more income, purchasing power will increase. And because of that, what will happen? The companies who are into the business of of constructing dams, they will then start thinking about improving themselves in technology, in efficiency. And for that, they will then start purchasing machineries, equipments, people from rest of the world. That is where imports start flowing into our particular country. Imports then start increasing, whether in goods or services, which then has a current account deficit. So this is one type of disequilibrium. Second is the cyclical disequilibrium, which is periods of recession, depression, boom, stagflation, which are basically because of business cycles of the economy. Like right now, we have this COVID-19. We can see that the global economy is going into a recession. So because of this recession, obviously there will be pressure on the balance of payment, and we will have balance of payment disequilibrium. The third is secular disequilibrium. This secular term is not a political term. In economics, secular means long term. So whenever secular comes in economics, in market and finance, it means long term. Secular disequilibrium means the equilibrium which a balance of payment witnesses in the long term, in the long run. For example, in developed countries, in the long run, because they see economic growth for a very long period of time, or even a moderate economic growth with the stability for a very long period of time, their disposable income increases. Now, when their disposable increases, it becomes high. They have lots of money at their disposal. So then they start purchasing things which doesn't belong to their country, but which belongs to rest of the world, because they are more attractive. They gives them aesthetic sense. So, like we, for example, we want to use a car made in Germany. We want to use a watch made in England. We want to use a software made in America. We want to use etc. So we want to use things which are made in rest of the world. So because of that, there is then a demand to import things, and this is how our imports go up, which becomes makes our current account balance negative, that is deficit, which is again a BOP disequilibrium. And the fourth and the last disequilibrium is structural changes. Whenever we have some structural changes, what is the structural change in economics? A structural change in economics is whenever any macroeconomic variable breaks itself. It means that it doesn't allows a particular trend to be available. For example, suppose a particular country is a socialist country. One day, one fine morning, the country decides now they will be a capitalistic country. The whole structure will change. The economic policy of India in 1991 was a structural policy, because We adopted liberalization, globalization, privatization instead of socialist policies, and that was a structural change. So structural change do has a negative impact on balance of payment. For example, if you see in 1991, we'll see the balance of payment trend also, but if you see the balance of payment in 1991, you will see that capital flow started flowing into our economy after July 1991. So our capital account was ballooning just after 1991. That is a kind of balance of payment disequilibrium. Now we have manuals of balance of payment. That is how we prepare. What we discussed was a format which was balance of payment manual 6 format. And all these manuals are provided by International Monetary Fund and all the countries who are signatory to IMF. It is mandatory for them to prepare their balance of payment according to these manuals. If a particular country adopt a particular manual, obviously countries are not independent. It is not their choice to adopt or not to adopt. They have to adopt, but they can ask for some time if they're not ready to adopt a particular manual. For example, India has right now partly adopted this balance of payment manual 6. However, India started with manual 1 and it complied with all the 5 manuals. Still, there are countries like few African countries who are in on balance of payment manual 4. What changes India has not adopted in manual 6? The changes is that right now we are discussing two types of account under balance of payment, the current account and the capital account. However, in balance of payment manual 6, there are three types of accounts: the current account, the capital account, and the financial account. So this changes India has not adopted. But if you right now go to see the balance of payment of United States of America, you will get these three classifications: the current account, the capital account, and the financial account. This is particularly after the global economic crisis of 2008. Now, my own research suggests some evidences regarding the relationship of components of balance of payment with foreign direct investment, because foreign direct investment is one part of our balance of payment statement, but it has linkages and relationship with current account balance and capital account balance. So I'm sharing few research evidences related to balance of payment. We talk about in research, we talk about causality, the cause and effect relationship. For example, if I ask you that what is the causality between GDP, that is economic growth of a country, and employment, I am asking you that whether when economic growth increases, whether employment goes up, or when employment goes up, economic growth goes up, or is it vice versa? So this is a question of cause and effect relationship, that what is the cause and effect relationship and what is the linkages. So these are the some of the findings of my research. One is that in the long run, that the total time period which we studied for India, this is a study for India, 45 years we studied for India starting from 1970s. So we had this example that in the long run, bidirectional causality between FDI inflows and current account balance means FDI inflows impacts current account balance and current account balance also impact FDI inflows. Then second is that in the short run period in this study was identified for around 13 years in one case and another case was 9 years. So in short run, there was no causality between FDI inflows and current account balance. So it means that in the short run, in a short period of time of say 10 years, FDI inflows doesn't significantly link with current account balance. Neither current account balance linked with FDI inflows. Then with respect to the capital account balance, there is a bidirectional relationship, that is FDI inflows affect current account capital account balance and capital account balance also affect FDI inflows. And in the short run, there is a unidirectional causality between FDI inflows and capital account balance, which means that FDI inflows affect capital account balance, but capital account balance doesn't have any influence on foreign direct inflows. At the end, thank you so much for listening to this particular lecture of ours. These are the references that you can After this class, you can search for and you can read. Even you can email me on my email address to get these research papers if you want to further study on the issue of balance of payment. Thank you so much for your patient listening.